This is Patrick from WSOU 89.5 FM, the loudest rock, here with Ryan Waste from Municipal Waste. How you doing?
Doing good, man.
Awesome. So let's get right into it. You guys just released your 7th studio album, Electrified Brain. It's your first studio release since 2019. How does it feel to finally have the album out?
It's good, man. We sat on it for over a couple years because obviously the world stopped turning. So we felt like the 1st of July is a good time, and people are back out playing gigs, and we're hitting the road again. So yeah, the time is now.
Yeah, totally. And you just said you were sitting on the songs for a while. When were these songs written?
Well, we were sitting on the album for a while. The album was finished, recorded and everything, but that's what we had to push back. The songs, some of them are as old as, 3 to 5 years. I mean, like songs like Demoralizer, like I had some riffs for that, like before Slime and Punishment, but it just didn't make sense with one guitar. And we resurrected some riffs for stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, there's always stuff on the back burner, so I can't give away all the secrets,
Yeah, totally. And this album was released over 20 years after your formation. How was the band formed?
Well, I actually used to do shows in Richmond in my house, like in 1999 and 2000. I had this like bunker type space where I would do like DIY shows, and only thing you could really hurt was yourself back there. Broken glass and just transient punks coming through, and it was just kind of a show, to be honest. And some bands practiced there, and there'd be some gear back there, so I'd go out with my guitar and jam with who was ever in the house. And this band used to jam there, and the singer would just hop on the drums, and we'd play like Sepultura covers, like Troops of Doom and old Accused stuff. And it just kind of formed into just a little jam I was doing. And then it got, figured I could get some people together. I got this guy Brendan to play drums, and we just started writing like metal punk songs. And then Tony was doing, some music similar down the street, and we were old friends, and we decided to put it together, and like it really became a band at that point, So got my old best friend, bass player Andy Harris, was the first bass player. Me and him have known each other since like 4th grade. So I mean, it's crazy to think back to those days, but it seems like yesterday, man.
Yeah, definitely. And you said it started out as just a kind of jam that you were doing, but pretty soon it became a real band. What was the chemistry like early on with the original lineup?
We didn't give a like we kind of like, we'd show up late to shows with like fast food drinks in our hands and be like, oh man, sorry, traffic was rough. We were just having fun, and it was before, a lot of internet was around to like get you to places. So I think Tony booked the first show on like a payphone, and, like MapQuest wasn't even really a thing. We're like getting directions from people and touring like the hard way. But, I wouldn't trade that in because it was more of a challenge, back then. Things are too easy now.
Do you think that challenge kind of shaped your mindset early on as a musician?
Oh yeah. Well, because we're a DIY band still, we don't have a big crew. I do a lot of the stuff myself, and, me and Tony pull the weight, putting it together. So we're very hands-on with everything. I think that keeps that spirit alive, because we're not just checked out, we're right there with every step of the way. I think that goes a long way for the band. It's probably why we've stayed together for so long.
Yeah, definitely. And because you guys are so DIY, hands-on with your music, how do you think you guys are able to put creative touch on a lot of your songs that a lot of bands might not be able to?
Well, everyone has input, Phil and Nick, joining the band in 2016. There's a lot of creative ideas going into it. So there's like a plethora of riffs always. It's actually gotten even easier now. I mean, it's something you don't think about, it's a weird question. Like, how do you, add the creativity? It's what we do. It's what we know. And, we're here to play music.
Yeah, definitely. And you just mentioned early on, you were, like you said, you've always been DIY, hands-on, kind of jamming, but, you were also kind of late to gigs, not really.
I'm just saying, before we had to be professional, we actually, when Dave Woody joined the band, he kind of whipped us into shape too. And we took it a little more serious, but that was, that was 2004. So, I mean, even that's old. So
Yeah.
We're obviously still cooking, man.
Yeah, definitely. But as much as that was your kind of vibe early on, when you finally got into the studio, what went into recording a Municipal Waste album early on? Because I know your first album, Waste Them All, it was 15 songs, but it was only 17 minutes long. What was the recording process like?
Well, yeah, I mean, we try to keep that spirit with short songs. I guess progressively the songs got longer, but we did a 7-inch before that in 2001, and that was on like we did that on like an 8-at tape, and we've done like we Waste Them All was on reel to reel, so we actually did that in Richmond with this guy Mark Miley, and it was on tape, and I didn't overdub any guitars, but one guitar was live and one was over top because I didn't even know I could fix mistakes. So everything that's on there was if the drums got a good take, we just used it. And I mean, there's not really, what's a mistake? If it doesn't stand out, it's fine. And it was cut on tape. So when he did edits, he literally cut the tape and spliced it together. And Mark was a genius recording engineer, and we reconnected recently. But yeah, I mean, I miss that tape sound, I mean, I'm trying to always strive for that. We're not a band that relies on triggers or samples. I'm very anti that. And this new record, we took it back to that kind of just raw feeling, but with like a big sound still. Arthur Riss did a bang up job doing this new recording.
Yeah, totally. And, I think Electrified Brain is just classic Municipal Waste sounding. What did you do on this album that was kind of reminiscent of your earlier work?
Well, we always just get in a room. We always play live when we record. We don't play to a click. We don't do it like individually. We're all in a room just like practice. So nothing has changed with that. We've done every record like that. This one, we just had more time to do it, because everything was shut down. We had more time to write it. We had more time to record it and put thought into it. So I think that's going to show once you hear it.
Yeah, totally. And, we were just talking about your first album, Waste Them All, recorded on tape, very old school sounding. But your second album, Hazardous Mutation, it has the song Unleash the Bastards, which ended up being your first music video. And the video is a kind of cut up concert tape. What was it like recording your first music video?
It was a show. We actually were playing a show. So that footage is from a Richmond show in the early 2000s. And we worked with friends of ours. They had a thing called Day by Day, which is kind of like skateboarding and like just wild skits and pranks and stuff. Like early, they blew up early on YouTube because they did like a DMV prank where they went in and did like all these like different IDs and stuff. And it's pretty, you could not pull off now. But those guys moved to LA and started the company that does Mr. Pickles that did like that Adult Swim show. So those are Richmond guys that did the video, still close friends, Will and Dave. So they were just up there recording. So just catching any of the insanity that goes on during our show. We probably played Unleash the Bastards like 4 or 5 times just to get that like live version of that like on film. But the whole footage is from the whole show. So that's just like a standard Municipal Waste show at that point, and we try to capture it on for the vid.
Yeah, definitely. And the video is obviously, like you said, really captures a Municipal Waste show, totally chaotic all over the place. What's special to you about Municipal Waste fans?
Well, everyone's accepted. We try to bring everyone in, and we let people on stage, and it's more of a push and pull with the energy from the crowd. We try to like not have barricades and have people be able to stage dive, and it gets harder at the bigger shows. You can't always do that, but that's where we come from, and we try not to put a quote unquote barricade between us and the crowd. So it's just like mentally it should be like everyone's show, and that's kind of how we've been rolling this whole time.
Yeah, totally. And like you said, as big as the crowds are that you're playing for now, I did read that your first gig was at a house party. What was that like?
Yeah, it was New Year's Eve 2000 turning into 2001. That was in Richmond. That was our first show. There's a little word on the street about the band, but once we started playing, people just started jumping off of furniture and smashing it, and it was just like, whether we were a good band or not, who knows what we sounded like, but people were just ready to rock. And it was one of those things that we kind of looked at each other as like, okay, maybe we got something happening here. Or maybe the angst was just built up enough in town that people wanted to react like that. And it's really never stopped, you know.
Yeah, totally. And I don't know if you really have an answer for this, but like you said, Municipal Waste wasn't really that known until you started playing live shows. What do you?
That's for
What?
anybody.
Yeah, as well. What do you kind of do in a live show that you think makes the audience really connect with the music?
We talk to them, man. You know, it's like we don't have anything rehearsed with banter. You know, you'll hear these bands and they're up there, and especially if you go on tour with a band, you hear them say the same thing every night. We try to do the opposite of that and just go basically with the flow and the energy of the crowd. And I kind of answered it in the other question. You know, we involve the audience. You know, we welcome people heckling, like, please talk to us, because we'll turn that into something. So we welcome it.
Yeah, definitely. And I was listening to Electrified Brain, and I noticed your sound has remained pretty consistent over the course of your career. Like I said, Electrified Brain is classic Municipal Waste sounding. But what do you try to do on each album to kind of give it its own flavor? Because obviously each album is not the same.
Well, I think this album is a lot different because, first of all, there's two guitars, and Nick is a really skilled lead player. So there's guitar solos. I only do like one or two on the whole record. Most of the leads are Nick. So we let him showcase that a lot more. So if you listen to the old Waste records, there's nowhere near as many guitar solos. Like, so that's, to me, is a huge difference. And we tried to play around with like different, like stylistically different tempos, because I'm a huge heavy metal fan. And as much as I want to put a ton of that stuff in the Waste is always needs to remain aggressive and still punk. So, I mean, I try to teeter between the two and not overdo either one. So I feel like we got to add some more heavy metal elements in here, and not be afraid to go slow here and there, which is not what we're known for, but when we do, it really stands out. So we try to sprinkle a little bit of that in.
Yeah, totally. And I noticed earlier on, reading about your influences, most of it early on was kind of classic crossover thrash, Suicidal Tendencies, stuff like that. But over the years, you've been around for 20 years. What kind of influences have you brought in over the years to the
that's
point
just
like
what's
that?
written in biographies and papers. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously
yeah.
there's so much influence. This goes for any musician. It's not what the band sounds like. It's rarely, it's like, for me, it's like always been heavy metal. Judas Priest has been always my favorite band, and a lot of new wave of British heavy metal. And I get to do I've done other projects that sound more like that, like Vulture, or even Bat has some stuff like that. But I mean, now our influence is Municipal Waste, because I think when you're a band 20 years, you start to sound like yourself. So, as much as I want to pay homage to other crossover bands, I mean, it was always Accused, the Crumbsuckers, Razor, Hallows Eve, obviously the obvious ones, which you don't need to, they get enough recognition. But those bands I just reeled off, like I'm still not sick of listening to that stuff. We've gotten to play with some of them and become friends with a lot of those bands. So, I mean, it's an honor to even be in the same category, I mean, now we're 22 years in, so there's people that, are influenced by us. I think that's pretty cool how it turned around like that.
Yeah, totally. And with all these different influences, even though the main one obviously being yourself, when you got punk and heavy metal in mind, where's your mind day to day when you're making an album like this with all these songs?
Well, it's all in the back of my head. After a while, you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to think about it, and it's not on my mind right now because the record's done.
Yeah, definitely. So,
Now we can sit back and enjoy other people hearing it. So I like to hear what other people have to say. We're on
yeah.
to the next one already,
Mm-hmm. And how has the fan response been so far to
I
Electrified
mean,
Brain?
usually people don't say negative directly to me. I don't know if that's them being polite, but it's been all positive, it's a lot of friends checking in, being like, man, I heard the record. It's, it rips and this and that. I mean, it's so easy to be in contact with so many people this day and age, so it's like instant gratification. So everyone's been hitting us up. So yeah, it's a good feeling. It's been a good week.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And you just said you're excited to get back out on the road with restrictions being lifted. You said this was a good time to release the album. What songs are you most excited to play for your fans?
Well, we've been playing Grave Dive for a while, which is still very fun. We were playing that before the record was out, but we just got to bust out High Speed Steel because we were dropping singles leading up to the record, and so we would feel like if people are hearing it, let's play it live. So we did that one. We've only done that like 3 times, and it's a different pace as everything else. So it really breaks up the set list. But I think, we're going to probably throw in a bunch of these new ones. I'm always a champion of not just playing your new album, because when I go see like Slayer or something, like as much as I love them, I want to hear the old shit, and I don't I don't want to be one of those bands like, all right, here's our new stuff, but hopefully, people like the new stuff enough that, they'll get into it as much. And we've always played a whole, span of albums, like something from everything. So we'll probably just throw in 4 or 5 new ones here and there. And we have short songs, so we can actually do that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And you mentioned earlier on, we are talking about the Unleash the Bastards video, how crazy Municipal Waste show is, and how crazy your first gig was at a house party with the fans going nuts. What's a song over your 20-year career that's really connected with the fans and made them go nuts?
You said it earlier, man. Unleash the Bastards, because that's what we're doing.
Oh yeah. What about that song do you think really strikes a chord with the hardcore crossover fans?
I don't know. We don't think about it like that. I mean, I always feel like we write for ourselves, and if people like it, even better. That was one that was just, I feel like that was a turning point for the band. We signed to Earache. We're coming from a more DIY label into something that's a little, not mainstream, but still bigger. So we had a lot to prove. So that record, Hazardous Mutations, real special to me because we stuck to our guns and elevated our style, in my mind, at the same time. So when I got that same feeling when I got this record back, this is when I got to sit back and listen to that. Like, so I know we're doing something right if that feeling's there.
So since then, you've signed to Nuclear Blast. You're playing for thousands of people, but like you said, you like classic Municipal Waste. How do you try to maintain that DIY hands-on spirit, even with the crazy growth you've had over the past 20 years?
I mean, you just don't change who you are. I mean, you could be that person to 1,000 people, and you can be that person to 100 people. It's really what's within you, I think. People see through that if you're not doing that, if you're phoning it in, or if you're too cool for school. And we try to avoid that attitude at all costs.
Yeah. You think Municipal Waste fans pick up on that? Pick up on the spirit?
We're still here. They're still with us, so the proof is in that.
Yeah, totally. So these next 2 questions are, they're a little random, but they're 2 of our favorite questions to ask bands at WSOU. The first one is, if the band wasn't called Municipal Waste, what do you think it would be called?
Man, I first had a name called The Wrath of Severed Head. I was going to call it Severed Head, and I was like, oh, The Wrath of Severed Head. And then we ended up making that a song title, like on Massive Aggressive. And it was like my email address on the old first 7-inch was like Severed Wrath 13 at AOL.com or something. I mean, it's always the waste, I mean, but yeah, that was a title before it, but never got used, but it became a song.
Oh yeah. And do you remember where the name Municipal Waste came from?
Yeah, of course, because I made it up, but I saw it on a. You still see this riding down the street. It's on a trash truck, at least in Virginia, it says Municipal Waste. Mm-hmm. And it was even a year before I started the band. It was just on a highway. We're heading to a show. This dingy truck rolls by, and it's like, that's a band name. As simple as that. And to me, it encompasses what the band sounds like. It's all the trash in the city. It sounds just as punk as it does metal, and that's what we are.
Yeah, totally. So next question is, if you could pick one Municipal Waste song to send out to aliens for them to listen to, and they would hear it, what song do you think it would be?
Ooh, so I wonder if this is going to help us or hurt us. So I got to think about that for a second. Let's do Thermonuclear Protection off the new record. And I won't say why, but maybe it'll save humanity, protect us from them. They're dangerous, man. I want to be on the same side, really.
Yeah, a lot of guys they say, "Oh, this song because I like it," but I like that you have a
no. I think deeper
process.
into the material than that, man. Come on, if you haven't gathered that.
Oh yeah. No, nothing annoys me more than when they answer questions on the surface, like when you dig deep.
Yeah, man.
So last question is, what's next for Municipal Waste? I know you said you've been working on new music. What else?
Yeah, we're hitting the road with At the Gates, great Swedish band. We toured with them back in 2008 or nine. It was a while ago, and they're doing another tour, doing Slaughter in the Soul straight through, and they asked us to be on the tour. So that starts in August 17th out in LA. But we're playing gigs on the way out there. Got some gigs with Midnight Festival in Texas, a bunch of cool death metal bands we're playing. So we're working our way out west because, we're in Virginia. It starts in LA, so we got to play our way out there. So we're cooking up some gigs on the way out there. I think those are all announced. You can find them on the Municipal Waste site. And then we're going to Europe with Anthrax in the fall, and that's like a good 6-week journey over there. So that should be pretty solid. We just played with them at Summerfest, and they're pretty pumped. So we've toured with them a couple times too. So it's cool. I mean, those are two really killer gigs that we don't have to play last on, and that's the best slot.
All right. So I know you mentioned earlier that you're on to the next album. Is there anything you could tell us about that, or is that more hush hush?
That's a mystery, man. Come on. We just put out an album. Just be satisfied with that for now. Be patient.
Oh, yeah.
We were patient waiting this long. We're going to make everyone else be patient.
Oh, yeah. No, man, I love the new album, but, figured I'd ask. So,
no harm.
Yeah. So, Brian, thank you so much.
You're
Municipal
welcome,
Waste, Electrified Brain, out now. Stream it, download it, CD, vinyl, whatever you got to do. Ryan, anything else you want to add, man?
No, I appreciate it. Send me the link, man. I'll check it out myself.
All right, fantastic. It's Patrick, WSOU 89.5.